Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the calling the call to order for the July 7th legislative meeting, our last one before our recess. And so looking forward to this action-packed agenda, not too long, hopefully, but we'll see where we end up on things. But first, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing and observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. Before us, we have an agenda. Hopefully folks were able to take a look at it. Are there any amendments to the agenda as presented? Okay, hearing none. Any stated conflicts of interest for agenda items?
No conflicts of interest. Would like to offer one amendment to unfinished business.
Okay.
That being discussion of the status of facilities at Riverside Neighborhood Park.
You're looking for an update, or you just want to have a discussion around it?
Both.
Okay. So we would amend the agenda. Well, I guess any discussion or opposition to amending the agenda to include the Riverside Park
None.
facilities? Good morning, Councilmember Smith. Welcome.
Good morning to you, Mr. Mayor.
We are stating any conflicts of interest or amendments to the agenda. There was a council member from the 3rd Ward suggested adding an item of unfinished business, a third item around the Riverside Park. Is it Riverside? Riverside Park?
Riverside
Facility?
Neighborhood Park.
Apologies, Riverside Neighborhood Park. Okay. Any other amendments to the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended to include the third item for unfinished business around the Riverside Neighborhood Park facilities?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Worsnop. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Present.
Councilmember Worsnop?
Aye. Here.
Is it here or present?
Present.
Okay. So that's
an abstention, I believe, as a
an
point of
abstention. Oh, okay. I just want to be clear.
Oh, sorry. No. Here. Aye. Not abstained.
It's an affirmative vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take that as an aye. Councilmember Cologne?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The agenda is approved. What is our numbers now? 4-1 with one assumption. Okay. All right. Next on the agenda, we have the monthly finance report.
Deputy Director Jones.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. Tonight is presentation finance reports. This is the last finance report covering the month of June, and then we have a year-to-date total. One thing I'd like to make note of beforehand is that we are still in the process of receiving revenue and recording expenditures. We have actually 60 days after the fiscal year ends to continue to record such. So not everything here is reflected, will be reflected in the final numbers. So everything that we have is just as of today. So for fiscal year 2025 revenue, we have a total of $431,728. If you look in fiscal year 24 and 23, those numbers are a lot higher because those are final numbers. Then we have expenditures totaling $648,724, leaving us a net of negative 216,996. Again, these are not final numbers. If you look in the month of, in the year of 24 and 23, expenditures are also much higher. So we do expect both of those figures to be higher at the conclusion of the fiscal year. And then we have a year-to-date total of $11,390,911, which is 102% of what we had budgeted. So we have surpassed the budgeted figure, and we are within the estimated actual number that we had put in the budget that was recently published. The expenditures, they total $9,311,521, which is 83% of what was budgeted. And this gives us, at this point, a revenue net expenditure amount of $2,079,390. So again, I'd like to reiterate that these numbers are not final. We do expect the expenditures to be higher, and we do expect the revenue to go up a little bit as well. Overall, the town will meet already has met its budgeted revenue and will stay within the budgeted expenditures. And if there are any questions regarding the finance reports, I'd be happy to expand further.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Any questions from council? I have a question. What are the ramifications or implications when we end up above budget? Are there sort of downstream impacts that happen as a result of that?
As far as what the expenditure side, like us spending more than what we had budgeted?
Yes.
Yeah, so it definitely plays a role into, what we are able to carry forward as far as the next year. Historically, what we've been doing in the previous years is the revenue net expenditure has been used to pay for CIP projects. So yeah, if we were to not have a revenue net expenditure, it would put us in a really bad place as far as the next fiscal year, as far as funding CIP projects.
Okay. And so the 106, 111, though, this is on not the expenditure side, the budget side, the revenue side.
Yeah, so the 11,390,911, yeah, that's revenue. And then the 9,311, that's the expenditures. And then the final number there, that's the revenue net expenditure number that we would carry forward. But again, these numbers are not final by any means. So we'll have a better idea in the next coming weeks and then finalize the end of August.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Questions from the public on the finance revenue and expenditure report? Okay, thank you.
We'll need a motion, Mr. Mayor, to adopt subject to audit.
That's right. Motion to adopt the monthly finance report subject to audit.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Cologne. We'll go to roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The motion passes 5-0. Okay, next, the correspondence summary. believe there is no correspondence. Correct? Unless one snuck in this morning.
No correspondence, Mr. Mayor.
Last time we had so much fun on the correspondence summary. Okay. Next up, we have the any public comments on non-agenda items and consent items. Any member of the public want to comment on anything? This is your open invitation. Okay. Seeing no unmuted mics and no raised hands, we'll go to the next agenda item, which is a presentation on the Maryland Municipal League MML Summer Conference debrief by Councilmember Worsnop.
Thank you. I don't have slides, so I'll just be kind of sharing my thoughts about the conference. So Mayor Inyang and I attended the Maryland Municipal League Summer Conference in Ocean City from June 22nd through June 25th, just a few weeks ago. I just first want to say that I really appreciated the opportunity to attend. So thank you to the town and staff for facilitating that. I really appreciate it. This readout is just kind of in the interest of information sharing with other members of the council and town staff. I wanted to just provide kind of what I saw as some key takeaways as a first-time attendee of the conference. And some potential follow-up action items as well. So thank you in advance for the opportunity to share here. Really happy to answer any questions to the extent that I can, or provide further information in follow-up after the meeting as well. So overall, I just found the conference to be a very valuable opportunity for connecting with and learning about the experiences of other municipalities, county and state officials, had the chance to hear from experts and practitioners on a range of issue areas, and also was able to get a bit more up to date on developments and available resources at the state level. What I will do is kind of highlight three interrelated themes that I took away from the conference, and then close again, as I said, with some potential action items. So the three themes that kind of flowed through the whole conference that I felt were most relevant to Riverdale Park were first, discussion of political rhetoric and how municipalities can respond to our current political situation in the United States. Second, the role of municipalities and economic development. And then third, the role of municipalities in environment and sustainability related programs. And then kind of the general takeaway that I will discuss at the end is just how all of the success stories that were shared from other municipalities kind of shared a commonality, which was clear prioritization of those issue areas and involvement and focus from the council and town staff on particular issues. So we'll kind of circle back to that. But first, I'll start with the role of municipalities in addressing the current political situation in the US. And this kind of came up in two ways. First was a focus on political rhetoric. We were introduced to something called the Dignity Index, which is an 8-point scale that was developed and validated by researchers across the social sciences to basically measure the level of contempt or dignity in a selected passage of speech. And the point of the scale was basically based on the logic that there is a connection between speech, kind of political division, and even political violence, and that providing a way to measure respectful political rhetoric can actually incentivize the use of that type of rhetoric. So the point of the index is not to discourage the expression of passion or strong beliefs or conviction or disagreements, but instead just to ensure that those ideas and views are expressed in a way that encourages unity instead of divisiveness. I won't kind of go into more detail here, but I do want to say that the organization does trainings for those that are interested. But the index itself, which I think Mayor Inyang just linked to, but I can also share in the chat, is pretty intuitive on its own and is something that we could consider learning more about and adopting as a council if there is interest. There was a lot of focus just on how municipalities, could, if interested, try to be a model of, better political rhetoric in the state. And so I wanted to bring that to the attention of the council. Beyond rhetoric, there was a lot of talk about how, Maryland's municipalities should be working together kind of as one state to cushion the blow from various federal level policies. And we've talked a bit about this as a council, but as we know, there have been a variety of federal level changes, and in particular, most recently, the budget that was just passed that will have many impacts on jobs, our immigrant communities, economic activity, healthcare, food assistance. And we know that the state, has already been facing a budget deficit. And from what we heard at MML, the outlook going forward, doesn't look much better. So we'll probably be facing these constraints going forward. And so for example, the governor's keynote, he was stressing the need to prioritize economic development and do what municipalities can to kind of help residents deal with what is coming. So on that note, economic development was obviously a big focus throughout the conference. And this came up kind of in a few particular ways. One area was related to addressing the issue of building and business vacancies, especially in kind of downtown areas. This came up in particular in the small town forum. Basically, everybody who was there mentioned this as a key issue. And as we all know, we're dealing with this in our town too. Several towns shared kind of their lessons learned over the past several years that have allowed them to make positive change in this area. And I just wanted to share two quick examples here that could be relevant for us if the council was interested. So first, Thurmont, Maryland has successfully used the software Booms Tracker to create kind of a lot and property inventory, which has helped them to attract new businesses. The kind of tangible way that this software has allowed them to do this was specifically being able to answer quickly very specific questions that potential businesses had for them. For example, square footage, zoning requirements, history of tenants. Having this information on hand when businesses approach the town helped the town keep those businesses interested in moving into that town instead of just moving on to the next town that had that information more readily available. The second example was from Tacoma Park. They shared their experience creating kind of a brand for their cross-jurisdiction business district, Main Street Tacoma. This also included a lot in property inventory, a target business list, a grants program to provide startup funds for businesses. And in both cases, they mentioned using grant programs available through the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. There were a number of funding opportunities mentioned to support economic development in municipalities and specifically actually to address vacancy issues. The Main Street Maryland program was a particular focus, and I believe the town has been involved in that process in the past few years. But my point kind of mentioning these examples is just that in both cases, the towns had a clear strategic plan kind of for addressing vacancies and economic development more generally, and that seemed really important to allowing them to take advantage of the software that I mentioned, and then the various strategies that Main Street Tacoma used to kind of fill their vacancies in the past 10 to 15 years. The second area that ran through the conference was related to environment and sustainability. And a number of towns were able to showcase kind of their successes in these areas too. Two that I'll just mention quickly was Brentwood. They created a climate action plan, or they're in the process of finalizing it. And they've done this over the past few years. Middletown, which is in Frederick County, they also successfully completed a number of sustainability projects, including solar arrays, charging stations, a food forest. And the takeaway here, again, was that in both cases, they kind of decided that this was the key priority for the town and the council during that time period. And so they had kind of active participation of the council and town staff on the sustainability committees in both towns. More broadly, kind of throughout the conference, but specifically in the area of sustainability, there were just a lot of funding opportunities mentioned, in particular in the area of sustainability from the Maryland Energy Administration and Sustainable Maryland. In the case of the Maryland Energy Administration, this upcoming fiscal year, they have a one-time only $64 million available to award, I guess, which they haven't had in the past and they won't have in the future. And that was just kind of one example of a funding opportunity that was mentioned. So those are kind of the three substantive themes that stuck out to me. So political rhetoric and what can municipalities do to address our current political moment, economic development, and then sustainability and environmental issues. And they lead to kind of a few potential action items or things for the council to consider. So first is kind of small things, of course, like exploring the Dignity Index. More broadly, though, kind of the biggest takeaway as a first-time attendee at the conference is that given other municipalities' experiences, addressing persistent issues such as vacancies or environmental issues just required clear prioritization and focused attention, as I mentioned before, from the council and town staff. These two issues, vacancies and sustainability issues, these are just two potential examples that were featured throughout the conference, but of course there are a number of other issue areas that a town could decide to focus on. Along these lines, municipalities seemed to be supporting these activities by engaging in things like creating and maintaining strong and consistent relationships with county and state level officials, as well as peer municipalities. They also had kind of systematic ways of staying informed about and providing input into legislation at the county and state level. And something that was mentioned here is that a lot of municipalities don't do this, like they don't really offer views on county or state level legislation. And so if you are a municipality that does, your view actually might be taken very seriously. That was kind of one experience that was offered a number of times. Third, there was also kind of a strategic plan related to funding that as I mentioned, there were a lot of funding opportunities at the state level that kept coming up. And given resource constraints, that will persist at all levels, it seems particularly important now to track these state and even federal level funding opportunities and to clearly communicate between council and staff about which opportunities have been pursued or not, kind of based on the town's strategic priorities. And then lastly, I'll just end by mentioning again how crucial it is at this time to consider what the town can do to mitigate the effects of federal level policy changes. We know that, there are a number of programmatic cuts coming. This is affecting not only individuals in terms of jobs, healthcare, food assistance, but also more kind of program level things like emergency response, weather and environmental information, as well as public health information. Those are being cut. On the other hand, of course, we're seeing kind of ICE funding increasing that, could make it bigger than most militaries in the world. Um, there was some evidence that some state level programs are trying to proactively think ahead in terms of how they can fill in for some of these cuts. Like the environmental and sustainability programs seem to be doing something related to finding new sources of data that may not be available from the federal level much longer. But a clear takeaway for me is that municipalities should also be thinking proactively about how to deal with these changes, because the state, won't be able to, step in all cases, just in terms of capacity limitations, given the scope of changes that we will be seeing. All of this being said, I'm sure town staff and other members of council are already aware of a number of these opportunities and issues that I've mentioned. These were just kind of my views and takeaways as a first-time attendee. I'm very happy to answer any questions to the extent that I can, or direct to further resources. So thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it and looking forward to any questions or feedback at this point.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any questions for Councilmember Wisnot?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Khan, go ahead.
Council member, I'm asking you, all this explanation, where are you heading to?
Where am I heading to?
Yeah.
Like, what is my point?
Yeah, because he
that-
didn't bring
yeah.
the actual point. Whether are we to assist them or what, I don't know.
Okay, well, I guess I just, there were 2 points. One was just to kind of share information, since only Mayor Inyang and I were able to attend the conference. I wanted to make sure that everybody had access to kind of some of the key takeaways that I found most valuable. In addition to that, since I did think it was very valuable, I hope that others kind of would be encouraged to attend in the future. More broadly, it was just kind of clear to me, again, as somebody who hadn't attended the conference before, how much councils are doing across municipalities. And we're doing a lot too, but there is also a lot that can be done. And one of the main takeaways for me is that in the areas where towns have had success, we've seen councils kind of take up issues that they really care about and spend a lot of time and focus on those issues, and that was key to the success of those programs. And so I guess those were kind of the main takeaways for me. But overall, it's an information sharing exercise, since I was able to attend and others were not. So I hope that clarifies, but I'm very happy to provide further information if that wasn't what you were looking for.
Thank you.
Well, I heard what you have explained, but you said these people, they have a lot of opportunities and that. But if you look, they are just like separate entities. We have multiple things more than them in our town of Riverdale Park. So they need our help or what?
So I'll answer this, and then we can move on. I think the point of this is to showcase what other people are doing. So if anything, the takeaway that I got from this was the bar continues to rise in terms of what successful councils look like in the state of Maryland. And so the people who are doing the most, who have these stories to share, as to display in terms of what they're doing, are folks that are clear in terms of what their objectives are, what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish. I think there's a common thread of focusing on a short list of things and really diving in deep, and this being sort of council driven, and that's what they're showing success for. This is nothing about Riverdale Park. This is not like people asking for help. This was a conference. This was a collection of elected municipal officials who are coming in and sort of sharing best practices, networking, doing what they're doing. So happy to talk more if you want to connect more offline, council member. But Councilmember Westham, I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and feedback on there.
Okay, well, we'll think about that. Thank you.
Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and Councilmember Warsaw. Thank you very much for sharing those 3 points, especially the one about sustainability. I know the Riverdale Parks Sustainability Group, the Green Team, would love to hear what you're about those takeaways that you had from the MML conference, and compare what was emphasized there with what currently they and others in town are trying to do to address those issues. So my suggestion would be to be in touch with Sarah Batto or Laura Katz, or even Sarah Whalen for that matter, to be able to engage them and share ideas.
Thank you. I will certainly do that. And I see Laura Katz on the call today as well. So I agree. And thank you for that suggestion.
Any other questions or comments from council, from public? Ms. Katz.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, and thank you, Councilmember Worsnop, very much for your focus at the conference and bringing back such that really important perspective from all the statewide municipalities that are there. I'm really glad that you got to go and that you have that fresh perspective that you brought with you and are bringing back with you from it as well. And I just will mention that I'm assuming that the Sustainable Maryland program had a table set up there, was present, that kind of thing. They usually are. They usually go to those conferences. So I just want to reassure you and not make an assumption, but just to, I think that a lot of those funding opportunities, the Sustainable Maryland program puts in their e-newsletter, which I believe you're signed up for, and I hope the rest of our council is signed up for. I sent out an email just today, as a matter of fact, that has a link in it on how to sign up for the Sustainable Maryland newsletter, which every time it comes out lists, I'm looking at the latest one right now, lists the PEPCO opportunities and the Prince George's County Sustainable Energy, Green Energy Loan. There's various funding opportunities mentioned. But I think the gap that I think you might have brought up in my mind is that gap. I'm not sure what our town is always doing. I'm not sure that gap between, there's the Green Team, which meets monthly. In fact, we're meeting tomorrow evening. And then there's the staff, which has a plate full of priorities, helps with getting the budget, going and all that kind of stuff. So that would be a great role that I would appreciate from our council to help close that gap between the residents know what's going on and what the staff is hard at work doing and what those council priorities are, which obviously is one reason I attend these meetings, to keep up with what the council priorities are and interface with the council and the staff. So I appreciate all that. And yes, if there's anything, you as a liaison potentially between our town manager and the residents, Councilmember Worsnop, if you want to play that role with us, that would be a valued role by, I think, the Green Team as well, to help us understand some of the things that are going on, so that we don't want to be inundating the staff with individuals all the time, asking them all these questions, when maybe we can consolidate this with the role of our council. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you. And
Oh,
thank you for, it makes sense to me. I'll speak for myself. Thank you. And thank you for all of the work you're doing as well, along with the Green Team. And obviously we'll also emphasize that, yes, staff, are doing an incredible amount of work in this area too, right? The point, I think, as you said, is to, make sure everybody knows what everybody is doing.
And that takes
Right?
time and effort. Yeah, you're trying to do things, but then communicate things on top of it, it
Yeah.
can get pretty crazy. And I will also give credit to staff who did recently come to a green team meeting. Our senior grants manager came and did share some grants that the town had received that were related to sustainability, mostly trees and environmental type things like that. So that was extremely helpful and very much appreciated. But it's a
Great.
team effort for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I've got some more thoughts, but I will save them from the mayor's report. Okay, Councilmember, I appreciate you doing the presentation. Definitely one of the things that I think looking forward would appreciate council members sort of doing presentations. Typically, these have been like outside entities coming to council and presenting, but I think there's opportunities for us to gather knowledge and come back and have a presentation within us. That was something that I heard from other councils in other parts of the state as like a regular occurrence that people do. So I think that's good best practice. We'll try that out for us. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. We had a permit and the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Kalan. We'll go to roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Kalan.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion passes 5-0. Next, we have two legislative items. And so the first will be around the town manager to purchase vehicles for the police department.
We have our Chief Turner here this evening, sir. If you'd like a
Yes.
brief synopsis of this.
That'd be great. Chief, can you?
Sure. Good evening. Staff is requesting a motion to authorize the town manager to sign a contract and subsequent documents as necessary to participate in a Ford Credit Municipal Lease Purchase Finance Program through Hertrick Fleet Services Incorporated for the leasing of 4 2025 Explorer Police Interceptor utility vehicles for a 5-year lease of an amount not to exceed $70,000 per year. The town has successfully leased police vehicles to expedite replacing aging vehicles in the past. Staff recommends continuing this option as it affords the means to acquire additional vehicles and to maintain the fleet and participate in the Ford Credit Municipal Leasing Purchase Program. Following are some of the benefits of participating in this program. Newer vehicles help avoid high costs for maintaining older equipment, low cost tax exempt interest rate, no down payment or security deposit required, no mileage restrictions, no maintenance or return provisions, fixed rate finance, flexible repayment terms, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annually. The police department recommends leasing 4 Ford 2025 Explorer Police Interceptor utility EcoBoost motor engine on a 5-year lease and an annual lease payment not to exceed $70,000 per year, which includes upfitting of emergency equipment. The purchase price is provided through Hertrick Fleet Service per the State of Maryland contract. The upfitting for the police emergency equipment will be done writing a Howard County purchasing agreement. This competitive bid contract was awarded through the Howard County Office of Purchasing to provide these services. The police department has experienced the loss of several police vehicles and is requesting replacement of aging within the current budget constraints. The FY 2026 approved budget CIP project number 11 PD06 vehicle replacements anticipates leasing 4 Ford 2025 Police Explorers. And I'll here answer any questions if you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions on before we vote on the motion? I see Councilmember Lingua's hands up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Chief Turner, to be clear here, the amount of 70,000 is for all 4 vehicles. This isn't for each vehicle. We're correct. Am I correct on that?
That's correct, sir. It's $70,000. It's one payment per year for 5 years.
Okay. I know it's an obvious question, but I just wanted to make sure I got it right. So that's roughly coming out to 17,500 per vehicle per year, which then translates to being just under $1,500 per month for each vehicle. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right, but I'd have to pull out my calculator to do that.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm asking, and it's maybe something that get a helping hand from Mr. Jones, Director Jones, or Director Smith, for that matter, regarding what we are realizing in savings by going with a lease agreement as opposed to doing a purchase financing in a dollar amount, say over the year or per vehicle.
So I do know it for budgeting purposes, it helps us because we can upfit the vehicle and finance the emergency equipment upgrade or upfitting into the price of the vehicle, which if we buy them, we have to do that separately.
Okay. And upfitting usually runs about how much?
Somewhere between, depending on the vehicle, and these vehicles are marked, so it's more. So I think it's somewhere around 18,000
per vehicle.
Correct.
So you're looking there then of about $72,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the cost on this, and by going this way through the lease, we're also saving on the financing side of this as well.
Correct.
Say if we were to purchase these vehicles.
Correct. We would not be able to purchase 4 vehicles for the same dollar amount in the CIP.
Okay, so that purchase would just be out of the question for 4 vehicles.
Correct. We'd have to lower the total number of vehicles we were purchasing.
Okay, I know that's been a challenge over the years to try and get 4. I know previous times where it's come before the council looking for 4 and it was knocked back down to 3 or 2. And then it was just a matter of making do with what was available until time came during the next fiscal year to be able to replace a few more vehicles. So essentially, we're able to realize more newer vehicles in our fleet this way through the lease, whereas we wouldn't be able to if we were to go a purchase route.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. So Director Jones, did you want to chime in on any numbers here of what we're realizing in savings? Do we have Director Jones?
This is
Or
Director
Smith.
We don't have those numbers available right now, but we can get them together. But the chief was correct. If we were to do a purchase, we would probably end up purchasing 1, maybe 2 vehicles, more than likely 1 per year. And that just wouldn't help us in the sense of being able to the maintenance and things on the vehicles would increase. So this was the way we figured out. This way would be the best way because we could get 4 vehicles at one shot and still go probably below what we would have output to pay for 4 vehicles.
Okay, so this
was our best option.
So we're realizing savings even longer term in terms of maintenance that would not be required on older vehicles.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, if you could,
but we can run those numbers and I'll try to get them together and send them out this week if that's the request.
I would appreciate it. Doesn't really have to be this week, but sometime during the month of July.
Okay,
fine.
We'll take care of that.
We're on the 7th day. There's time here.
Right. But we've worked over this for the last few years, and this has
Right.
been the best way to manage the fleet of vehicles.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for bringing this to us, Chief Turner. I'm wondering, which vehicles would these be replacing?
They're, excuse me, they're replacing four marked patrol vehicles that one we lost in a collision, it was totaled, and three that we deadlined, and we've already sold these vehicles on govdeals.com.
And those were owned vehicles?
All older vehicles, yes. They're 2014, I believe.
Gotcha. So I understand there's budget savings on the front end for leasing these vehicles, but once the lease is up, we would not realize any return on selling those vehicles. Those would just go back to Ford or the dealership or Howard County or some other entity. Is that correct?
No, at the end of the lease, we own the vehicles.
We own the vehicles after.
It's a lease to purchase. Correct.
Understood. Okay. And so we maintain two patrol cars on duty at all times. Is that correct? Understanding that there are some cases when we have overtime, and as I understand, the minimum that we have is two.
No.
Go ahead.
Currently, our patrol squad is there's 4 officers assigned each patrol squad.
Understood. So we've already sold those vehicles. What are the patrol squads driving now? If we're sold
driving
existing cars and we're looking to buy new cars.
So yeah, so they're driving. We had some spare vehicles, so we're mixed match. Some of them aren't marked that are in patrol currently now. These vehicles will be marked patrol vehicles.
Understood. And has the department or staff otherwise looked into EV patrol cars?
We have. Currently, we would not be able to, with the current budget restraints, we would not be able to purchase or lease 4 EV vehicles for the price of $70,000 per year. It's considerably more, which would lower our number of vehicles that we would be able to purchase. And additional, we don't have the infrastructure currently to charge. We only have 1 current charging station for the PD.
Okay. And if it's fine if you don't know this off the top of your head, but do you know which vehicles were researched for that?
Yes.
For EVs or hybrid?
Yes. Well, we researched the Ford Mach-E, the Chevy Blazer EV. Both of those vehicles are do not fit the parameters of what we need in a patrol vehicle. They're a bit smaller than the Ford Explorer, which is midsize. We would have a difficult time with prisoner transports and such in these vehicles. Some larger departments, as you see in big cities, they have what we would call a wagon. They don't transport arrestees. Some of these vehicles are made for police, but depending on the size of your officer and the size of your arrestee, the backseat is very limited. And additionally, we have the issue of charging downtime of the vehicles. Normally it takes several hours to charge a vehicle, and at that time, obviously, the vehicle is not in patrol. We have an EV, as you know, we purchased last year, which is driven by one of our admin, and again, it will work for our detectives and our command staff and such that aren't obviously on 12-hour shifts where the vehicle is constantly running. So we do have options when we go to replace those type of vehicles. But for patrol, which is, like I said before, we talked about, I believe, during the budget hearing, which is with the 12-hour shift, and obviously there's no guarantee that your shift ends at 12 hours, that we could run into some issues with charging EVs.
Understood. Thank you for that, Chief. I want to be clear here. I'm not here to tell you, Chief, what kind of vehicle you need to do your job. You know that better than I ever will. I do know that, the level 3 chargers, you can go from 0 to 80% in about 45 minutes. The technology exists out there for patrol vehicles. I know there are special service models for the Blazer in particular. I think Rivian has one as well. I think we have a responsibility as a municipality to understand, and I've mentioned all this before, this is not new to this council, but that what really drives the development and the fielding of this technology, which is imperative to addressing climate change, is fleet purchases. It's great for all of us or whoever has have the means and the interest to purchase an EV, but when you have entities that, in our case, can purchase 4 at once, larger entities purchasing 20, 100, whatever it may be, that's what really drives the innovation and the production on this stuff. And I appreciate the work that's done here, but I think all of the inhibitions that have been outlined for doing this with EVs or even hybrid vehicles, honestly, those are solvable problems if those are things that we value. So just encourage the council to think about that. I would expect that my fellow council members will vote accordingly. I expect us to go through. That's what I'm saying. But I think I'll be, sticking with my promise here, which I've been flexible on for certain circumstances in the past. But in terms of voting to approve this lease to purchase, I think we can go back to the drawing board and figure out some more things to look towards a more sustainable path forward. Sincerely, thank you, Chief Turner, and thanks to staff for all of that.
Sure.
Thank you. I think we have enough for, is there a motion to authorize the town manager to sign a contract and subsequent documents as necessary to participate in the Ford Credit Municipal Lease Purchase Finance Program through the Hergic Fleet Service, Inc. for leasing 4 Ford 2025 Explorer Police Interceptor for a 5-year lease in the amount not to exceed $70,000 per year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, second by Councilmember Kalan. A little roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
No.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Kalan.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 4-1. Thank you,
Before we
Police Chief. Next up on the agenda, we have second legislative item, which is a motion to authorize the purchase of computers for the police department. I think this is relatively straightforward. Police Chief, anything you want to sort of add in terms of like additional color from what we sort of see on the screen?
No, just the driving point behind this obviously is that Windows 10 operating system that's currently in use is going to be not supported in October 2025. So keeping within the town's cybersecurity goals and requirements, many of the aging computers need to be replaced.
I can't believe you're using Windows 10. That was my first suggestion. First, it's just like, wow, there's always the outliers. Okay. Let's have a motion that we can have any discussion. Is there a motion to authorize the town manager to purchase of 20 new Panasonic Toughbook FZ40 computers, vehicle mounting hardware and installation for an amount not to exceed $130,000?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Lingua. Any discussion on this motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Smith.
Just want to confirm this was in the FY26 budget, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Turner.
You? Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Well, I guess we are ready for a vote on the motion. We'll start with a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Kalan.
aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Chief, for the presentation. Okay. Next up, we have, so that finishes our legislative action items. Next up on the agenda, we have 3 unfinished business items. The first being the Ward 5 special election update. Do town staff have an update or a presentation on this?
Deputy Town Manager Barnes.
Yes, good evening. This is just a report on behalf of the Board of Elections that as of June the 25th, 2025, which was the candidate filing deadline, there were no candidate packets received, and therefore the special election has been canceled. At this point, we move into the next steps, which would be an appointment by the mayor with confirmation, of course, of the majority of the council for a Ward 5 resident up to July 24th, 2025. After that date, if there's no qualified person from that ward available, after some additional notice and a publication of general circulation in the town, the mayor may appoint, again, with confirmation of the council, someone from the town at large.
Thank you, Deputy Town Manager. Any questions or discussion on this item? I have one in the sense that one, I appreciate staff for the work that went into trying to find interest in this special election. I know mailers were sent out, doors were knocked, reaching out to individuals, a lot of answered questions about this, but it is unfortunate that no one decided to file for the special election. And so the ramifications are, and as mentioned, that an appointment will have to be made and approved by the council. So it's unfortunate reality, but this is a challenging time, and I think we knew that we've always kind of had issues with trying to find sort of participation in Ward 5. So, we must persist. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Kalon.
This is for the question. Can one council member represent two ward?
No, that is not possible.
Good try.
Say what?
Good
Because
try.
Ward 5 is my neighbor. So
No, that's good. It's a valid question. No, to have a full council, we need 6 individual people representing all 6 wards, I should say. And so I think the only other thing is, the part about qualified persons, anyone who's appointed also has to be a qualified person, which means that they have to be over 21, lived in the town for 6 months, as well as a U.S. citizen. And then they would also have to pay the $25 filing fee as well. So even if you're appointed, the same stipulations apply as if you were to run on a ballot. So those are the realities of it.
Mr. Mayor, it's Sarah Zolad.
Go ahead. Election.
Okay. Hi.
How are you?
Yes, I'm doing fine. We were all disappointed that no one was able to complete the packet, but the town did get interest and questions from people about the position. So we're feeling hesitantly confident that there will be people who are interested in pursuing the role as an appointee. And we encourage the town to reach out to Ward 5 and explain to them what the necessary requirements are to be an appointee. And I think that in the next, we really also want to encourage you and the rest of the the town council to try to work very hard to find someone from Ward 5.
Thank you, Chief Election Judge. Councilmember Smith, your hand's raised.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering if possible, if Chief Judge Zolad, if you could at all characterize the volume of that interest. Are we talking, a couple people, or I mean, I'm assuming by the fact that we didn't receive a packet that it was not overwhelming interest, but yeah, I would just like to hear more about that.
We had one candidate who was seemed to be quite interested, but there was just too short of a time, and I believe for them to get the necessary signatures is part of the problem. There aren't very many registered voters in Ward 5, so getting 15 signatures is very difficult, as well as with the turnover in that area. It's very, very difficult to get the necessary signatures. The thing that we were pleased about was it was an organic candidate, someone who had heard about the position and came to us, and it wasn't through third-party interests or somebody else suggesting that they contact us, which was just wonderful. And I really want to commend Jessica and the rest of the her team, that they went out and they did enough education so that people are beginning to realize the importance of the role and showing an interest in it, even in these difficult times. So it really there wasn't an enormous amount, but the fact that people were interested, to me, was just a good sign, because it is normally very, it is difficult work to find somebody who can do the work to get elected to the Ward 5 position.
Understood. That is very encouraging. I would ask, all privacy considerations necessary, if that contact information could be shared with the council, if possible, that we could encourage that person to be involved. I understand, I don't know what the privacy rules are. I understand it might not be possible, but if it is, would love to reach out to the person. Sorry, go ahead, Ms. Ola. Mm-hmm.
If they had completed the packet, we would have that information. At this point, they are just a resident who contacted Jessica. Okay. So I'm not sure about that. And I think the person to talk to would be talk to Jessica and potentially Fred to see what we could do. I would love to give you their name and phone number, but I'm not sure if that's, I'm positive that's not the right thing to do, but I'm not sure how we get that information to the right people.
Yep, and I certainly appreciate that, and thank you for keeping that in your considerations. We want to make sure we do it all by the book and not violate anyone's privacy. I would ask if staff could, at some point in the future, report out to the council any ideas that we might have for increasing registration for Ward 5. That the piece about there not being as many registered voters in Ward 5, that is not something I had previously considered, and that's on me. The voting rolls are public, so those can be expected anytime. But I'd be that is a structural problem that exists for anyone who wants to run there, and that's not an impediment that I had considered. So would like to think about what we could do to encourage participation in the process there and get more voters registered, and understanding the challenges of it's frequently a transient community. There's usually a language barrier there, but they are our residents. They're entitled to the same representation as everyone else, and anything we can do to facilitate that, I think we should explore. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have covered this. There's no action required, so we'll move next to the second item of unfinished business, which is the stop sign automated enforcement.
Yes, we have Chief Turner presenting an update. Chief?
Yes, good evening again. No formal action is required at tonight's legislative meeting. Instead, staff seek the opportunity to brief the mayor and council on the process for implementation of stop sign automated enforcement. In response to ongoing safety concerns and community input, the town is considering enhanced enforcement measures at stop signs within school zones. As you know, the majority of the town is within a half mile of a school. Former Mayor Alan Thompson was an early advocate of the use of stop sign automated enforcement. And with the recent passage of legislation permitting stop sign automated enforcement in school zones in Prince George's County, the town is now able to act. Residents and business owners have expressed strong support for improved enforcement at stop signs, particularly in areas of high pedestrian activity and student traffic. In May, town staff presented the mayor, council with findings from a pilot program conducted at 8 intersections. The pilot revealed an average of 306 high danger violations daily and 1,427 medium danger violations per day, underscoring a significant risk to public safety. Additionally, additional information is being gathered at 2 additional locations. To address these concerns and enhance the safety of students, pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers, staff recommend the council direct staff to take the necessary actions to implement stop sign automated enforcement. The following outlines the required steps and timeline implementation. We would need to introduce an ordinance amending Chapter 64, have a public hearing on the stop sign monitoring ordinance, adopt a stop sign monitoring ordinance, have a contract authorization with Obivia, the first for a solar powered enforcement system, which is sole source, location determination, submission of a request for approval to Prince George's County, which currently is running 4 to 8 weeks, and then the implementation of enforcement. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief Turner. Any questions on stop sign enforcement? We talked about this for a while over a couple councils, but I think town staff is sort of looking for some direction. The outline steps, any decision that we make, this isn't going to be an overnight thing. It's going to take, almost 2 months to get this through. So I encourage feedback. I see Councilmember Smith and then Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask or confirm my memory with Chief Turner here. The data from the pilot here, that was from a single source contractor, right? Do I remember that correctly?
Correct, sole source.
Sole source. So just to make sure I understand correctly, that they're the only, if we were to implement this, they are the only vendor that we could use to do so. Is that correct?
Currently, that is correct. They're the only vendor and they are the only solar operated camera system.
Thank you, Chief Turner. I appreciate that. I would just note to the council, we all recognize that we have problems with pedestrian safety here, and we need vehicles to be safer, to slow down, to stop at stop signs. None of that is in dispute. I would submit that, as with most communities in the country, our roads are engineered to encourage reckless driving, and that's the ultimate problem and the only way to fix it, which is I understand is easier said than done. That's a major project with a huge expense. But it would seem to me that things like this, in my opinion on the automated enforcement, is well known that it's doesn't do much to actually address the problem. It just generates revenue from it. And would just note that these stats from the pilot are eye-popping, but they do come from the only person that we are allowed to pay to solve the problem in theory. So I think that is notable for the consideration. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Worse not.
Thank you. And thank you, Chief Turner, for giving us that update. I was just curious, are there plans for evaluating the effectiveness of this program included if we were to go ahead? Obviously, we can see the revenues generated, but in terms of like behavior change, have other municipalities done that kind of evaluation, or does this company incorporate that kind of thing?
Thank you for your question. Yes, they do. And for instance, I know that in Morningside that they've seen a 50% reduction in citations over 4 months, and they will supply that data to us as well.
Okay, thank you. That's really interesting. A follow-up if you have the information, in addition to the citation numbers, is there tracking? I assume we already track, you know, like accidents in the town, right? Related to stop signs. So that's another data point that somebody could use to track effectiveness.
Sure. I would say the majority of our serious collisions are on the highways, but
Sure.
you know, obviously we do have accidents at our intersections with stop signs.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you. Any other council member comments or questions? I have a question around the so I know there were additional locations that were sort of, you know, gathering data, and at MML I saw the, you know, sort of president of Avia, the company that we're using, you know, mentioned that they were sort of going through some of the numbers. Curious if they supplied that, or have you been able to sort of look through some of the additional numbers from the tracking that happened since the pilot from a couple weeks ago?
Sure. So they didn't supply the numbers the way I presented to the council with the high, medium, and low danger. So I'm waiting on that information. I do know that the locations were westbound Woodbury Street at Rhode Island and westbound Van Buren at Rhode Island. And the percentage of violations at westbound Woodbury at Rhode Island was about 80% of the vehicles daily. And it was 69% at Van Buren and Rhode Island. I do not have the data to break down the seriousness of the violations. I'm waiting on that from the vendor.
That tracks anecdotally.
I
Councilmember
think it'll be very similar to the other intersections.
Sorry for the follow-up. Jennifer, could you repeat where the intersections where the pilot was conducted?
Well, there were two additional, what we're talking about, we sent out a request if there was additional intersections, and we put a camera up at westbound Woodbury at Rhode Island and westbound Van Buren at Rhode Island. That's post the pilot program. And in addition.
Do you offhand, and I can take this after the meeting or over email or whatever, if not, but do you recall what the original 4 intersections were?
I believe there were 8. There was Riverdale Road at 54th Avenue, Taylor Road at Riverdale Road, Taylor Road at Queensbury, Lafayette at Sheridan, Lafayette at Oglethorpe, and it was Woodbury at by the Gold's Gym, 46th. They
You're
were
on a roll. I wasn't saying nothing. You're just knocking them off. Yeah, you're right. I think that's
You also had Taylor at Longfellow too.
correct. That's the last one.
Impressive, but the impressiveness is not surprising to you, Turner. Thank you very much. Admire the recall.
Any other questions or comments, Councilman Merlingua?
Yeah, really quick, and just remember these were 8 intersections out of. Now that's a number I do not have off the top of my head. Only measuring one direction. Some of these intersections are 4-way, some of them are 3-way. So just keep that in mind. The numbers that were recorded over that time period was in single directions at 8 locations.
Thank you, Councilmember. Well said. And it's I think to points that have been stated earlier, the issue of do people run stop signs in town, I think that's not up for debate. I think it's pretty clear that that is an issue that we have. The question, I think, then comes down to what can we do to mitigate that issue. I think seeing these numbers, my first thought is we are lucky and fortunate that we don't have more serious accidents as a result from people running stop signs, because the percentages that we're playing with are dangerous. You know, the amount of high danger violations, and even from the pilot, that's one direction, as a council member said, and those are people who didn't stop at all. right? Even the medium violations are pretty serious. Even the low violations are still against the law, right? And so we sort of cut out a subsection of things that were already, all of them are illegal, all of them are violations of stop signs. But even if we wanted to be generous and say, you know, let's not are we debating a full stop 1 second versus 2 seconds versus, slowing down to near stop? Even if you eliminate those, there's still a lot. And the westbound on Woodbury and Rhode Island Avenue is from a personal anecdote, is the reason why I first ran for a special election 4 years ago, was because frustration on what can be done to sort of stop that. So this is near and dear to me. I think it's looking at the calendar sort of laid out here. I think there'll be multiple opportunities to get a lot of feedback and insights from the council as well as the public around what this looks like. So I would be in favor of moving forward on introducing this ordinance and starting the process. All right, Chief, I appreciate you. You've been doing double duty, getting your money's worth. But thank you for the presentation and sort of helping facilitate a lot of the information and stats behind this. If you can get, I think being able to have the information posed in the same way as the other pilots would be sort of helpful to get add to the list of numbers, so that we can say confidently that it wasn't just 8 locations, it was 10 locations. So it was a pretty exhaustive exploratory phase.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a little something for all here to consider going forward, because as the chief has laid out a timetable for when things can occur in terms of a legislative process. And being that a discussion has started now, I think it's important that we find a way to somehow keep this conversation going over the time that we're not meeting, be that through social media or whatever form, mainly because what we're considering here is something substantial, and it may also, having a steady dialogue hopefully can lead to an opportunity where we're just able to try and discuss this and find ways to change this that are more cultural and more just really a proactive step among residents, being more conscious about how they're driving within the town, or even in general, just about stop signs. I don't think we're going to be able to really legislate and enforce our way out of this problem. We're seeing that with, unfortunately, we're seeing that with speed cameras, and just how the amount that keeps coming in from fines keeps increasing. So it may be a way that we just try and find a way to do this through dialogue, and try and find it more as a way of appealing to the better natures of everyone and their conscience to be more proactive and driving safely.
Thank you, Councilmember. Town Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. From a staff perspective, just want to make sure that we have a general consensus. I know there's differing opinions, but there's general consensus for the staff to move forward.
I would say yes.
Okay. We will work with the attorney over the course of the summer, and we'll come back to you at the end of the recess.
Thank you. And Councilman Ringwood, to your point, I think you're spot on. One of the challenges I know we have, even including speeding, is we have a lot of through traffic. So the people we probably need to reach the most are the people who are not in the community.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, but I think talking to members from Morningside who have implemented this before, their feedback was that, word starts to get around that, hey, you don't run stop signs in our community, right? And so they've noticed that, at least anecdotally from other officers and sort of looking that people stop running stop signs, even the ones that don't have cameras, right? And so hopefully that's the best case scenario, that something like this changes behavior at more than just the implementation site. But I agree, it's not the silver bullet. If anything, it's one tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the route we're having to pursue, having tried, newer stop signs, flashing stop signs, any number of things. I think it's just, and it's a continuing effort. Because there are new drivers minted every day.
Well said. Okay. Thank you all for that discussion. Moving on to the third item of unfinished business, which is the facilities at the Riverside Community Park.
Neighborhood, but that's okay.
Neighborhood. Yeah, listen, don't get me started on the name, but
just think Mr. Rogers and it'll be okay.
Okay. I'll never forget it.
That or Daniel Tiger, one of the two. That's all I'm saying.
Councilmember, you brought this up because you wanted to get an update on the facilities, or you wanted to make a comment on something that's happened so far?
Well, a little of both. I just wanted to hear from staff if we've heard any word back from Park and Planning Commission regarding what we had talked about before in previous meetings about getting the bathrooms open for people to be able to use.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Tom, go ahead.
Councilmember Lingua, staff have reached out to staff at Park and Planning, and we did not receive a reply.
Okay.
We have since reached out to Mr. Tyler, who Jessica, if you could help me with his title, but I believe he's in charge of parks. So we hope to hear back in the next few days. He's typically very responsive.
His first name is
Bill
Tyler, William Tyler. Okay. And what's his title?
Jessica, can you help me with that?
He's the director of Parks and Rec.
Director of Parks and Rec, William Tyler. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So really at this point, after, I know we talked about this back, I think it was like May, when we brought this up, and, I was asking the question, how soon is now? And it seems that 2 months later, it's definitely not that soon, and it's definitely not now. The reason I bring this up is because I know I brought this up before, the fact that I ran into a lady by the name of Maya McKenzie, who was running over there for 6 weeks a Flag Star football, of which she went through Park and Planning, filled out the application to have a permit to use the football field, which is still theoretically under construction according to the sign there, and asked about having the bathrooms open because she was running an event that was going to be 7 hours long on the day, and asked 3 times, and Park and Planning did not open up the bathrooms. After the third time, she just stopped asking. There's that. So there's that issue. Now there's another issue that's been brought to my attention by town resident Eudes Abrego, who, along with some family members and other friends, some being who live in town, are looking to try and reserve the softball field at that park on evenings twice a week. So they would be able to play some pickup softball. Reason that they're looking to get to be able to reserve the field is because, as has been the case over many years, that there are folks who like to come and play, small field, small court, pickup soccer in that outfield area. And therein lies the conflict. And they're just trying to make sure, Ms. Abrego and company are trying to make sure that on nights when they would have the field reserved, that they would be able to have the field should anyone else come and say, hey, look, we've reserved this field from this time to this time, and have documentation to show someone that such was the case. According to Ms. Abrego, in order for them to do that, they need to have a $1 million insurance bond to play softball at this field. And a side note on that field is, despite the fact that Park and Planning has put up a lovely new fence along the backstop and along the sides, thank you very much, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Department of Parks and Recreation Maintenance. It was very well appreciated. The infield, in the time through this winter and spring, has started been growing over, and it's not a fully formed infield, and does not receive regular maintenance in terms of being smoothed out. It does every once in a while, and this is no fault of the staff who are responsible for maintaining these parks. I know they do the best effort that they can with the equipment that they have, which is one field grader for the entire county. One, which is supposed to be able to make it around to all the fields, to grade all the softball fields within the county. That's almost an impossible effort. Now, this past weekend, back to the restroom issue, park is very much in use, especially with the lovely new playground, which is a tremendous hit. To which, yes, I will offer acknowledgement of thanks to Assistant Town Manager Jessica Barnes, who I know has felt very adamantly about having new playground equipment in there. And if you had anything to do with that, well, thank you very much. It's a big hit, and appreciative that Park and Planning put it in. However, when residents out there who are trying to enjoy these facilities need to relieve themselves, they are having to endure an indignity to have to do so in public, to have to go around to the side of a building and relieve themselves. And right around the side of the building where most folks go, there's a large tree which offers an immense amount of shade, such that if someone wanted to have a picnic underneath that tree, just sit down on the ground and in the shade of that tree, which it offers an ample amount of shade in that park, which is a bit bereft of shade. would have that experience compromised by the various sense of elimination that would be emanating from that corner of the building. And I'm just finding this unacceptable, and I'm finding it unacceptable that Park and Planning is yet to respond to this, is yet to do anything. Being that parks like Riverdale Community Park, the larger park, has 2 Porta-John facilities up there that are regularly maintained. That the park, its name I cannot remember, that's in Calvert Hills, just walking distance off the trail, the Rhode Island Avenue hiker biker trail. Not only has a nice pavilion with tables, but also has indoor bathrooms at which the doors are open.
Councilmember,
Yes.
I appreciate
this
the
is what we're
concern.
contending with, sir. And I just feel that we as a body need to find a way to address this to Park and Planning in a very open and an official way. I know staff has tried reaching out to staff at Park and Planning, and it seems staff's being ignored. And I feel that's very unfortunate.
No, I understand. I know Councilmember Smith has had his hand up. We'll go to recognize you.
Sure.
And then
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And I have one thought, and then we can proceed. Councilmember Smith. You're muted, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just ask staff if the escalation of the issue with Park and Planning does not bear fruit in the next week or so, if you would let staff know so that we could escalate to the county's elected leadership.
I would say we're at that point, so I wouldn't wait for another week. Councilmember Ling, how many years are we talking here? This isn't like this isn't a week.
This
or so.
bathroom's been closed for about 9 years now.
Okay.
And the response I get from crews that come out, because this is what they're being told, it's because the bathrooms were vandalized. Well, yes, they were, and it was very unfortunate, and that was 9 years ago.
Okay, so I think it's we can continue. I would suggest staff can continue to follow up in the existing paths that they have been, but Councilmember Ling will let's connect. We can figure out
My suggestion, if I may.
Yes.
If we don't hear anything from Park and Planning by close of business Friday, following Monday morning, letters are going out to council members, County Council Chair Jolene Ivy, and District 3 Council Member Eric Olson.
Okay, let's discuss.
Okay.
I think it's makes sense, and I think we're past the point of waiting, but if we want to give it a couple days, we can. I think again, this is one of those things where nothing prevents us from sort of reaching out. And if you have a good relationship, I have a good relationship with both of them, and happy to express the concerns that have been articulated so eloquently by Councilmember Lingua.
Likewise.
Okay.
I know them well.
Any other discussion or thoughts on this unfinished third item of unfinished business? Thank you, Councilmember, for bringing it up. Okay, looking at the agenda, next order of business is new business. And this would be a motion to close the meeting to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation. That's sort of the ordinance, but it's around an individual. And so therefore, it's a personnel matter and, qualifies under the general provisions article for a closed meeting. Is there a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Cologne. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Langlois,
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop,
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion passes 5-0. We will move to a close meeting, and then we'll report back to finish out the last items on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The staff members remaining would be myself, our deputy town manager, Ms. Barnes, and I believe Ryan Shelton, because he's helping to run the Zoom and will be needed at that time.
Thank you. Can we stop the recording?
Room is unlocked. We're recording, and then the live streaming is loading now. Yep, it looks like it's ready.
Thank you all. It's 9:07 and we are coming back from closed session and moving on to the last parts of the agenda. Next on the agenda is the mayor's report. Couple things. I think, for one, was able to attend MML, the Maryland Municipal League Conference.
Can you bring up the agenda, please?
Sure, we'll bring the agenda up as the agenda is coming up. Right now, it's just the mayor's report and then the town manager's report and then ward reports, and then we're done. So in terms of the mayor's report, attended the Maryland Municipal League Conference, which was in Motion City the last week of June. It's clear that there are a lot of, one, it's always good to sort of see other, elected leaders and some of their town staff, as well as not just from the municipal side, but most of the PG County Council were there, as well as, staff from the some of our federal delegation as well. And so pretty much everything from the senators to the congressmen to county staff were there and present. And so great opportunities to connect and talk about issues that were near and dear to our town. One of those being, and then in addition to that, part of the normal programming was one of those a roundtable where all of the secretaries that report to the governor were also there, and so was able to have a long conversation with the Secretary of Transportation and his staff around the Purple Line, and had a good conversation around obviously the importance of it, getting an update. I think they're well aware that this is something that we are, like everyone is sort of motivated for the Purple Line to be done. I did mention the issues around connectivity, which they sort of noted down and said they would follow up with all the interested parties. But I mentioned two things. One, the sort of event that happened a couple months ago, where, a group of us sort of organized by the CCAR and the Purple Line, coalition and other folks of meeting in a parking lot near the McDonald's on Kenilworth Avenue and trying to walk to the Purple Line station. And it's 30 people plus wearing vests. And it took almost half an hour to cross 3 streets, and just because of the traffic patterns. And so they weren't aware of that. And so looking into, what needs to be done to ensure that is a walk and bike friendly station. We talked about sidewalks and other connectivity, and they mentioned that there are some plans around bike paths, but some of that is planned. But if there are additions or updates that we want to make, now is the time to try and sort of identify what's the plan of record and make any impact or any changes before final ground is being broken on things. We talked about, this idea of the tax bill that was just passed through Congress, and, I think we'll be learning about the implications of that probably for the next few weeks and months. But everything from, even just from what was discussed today, we talked about EV vehicles, and I know some of the tax credits around purchases are sort of being sunset, I think in September or so. And so I think, it was sort of a running, notion that everyone should do their due diligence in terms of what this bill means for their residents as well as their municipalities, and how do we protect ourselves to sort of be best positioned for the new realities that will come from this law taken into effect. The other item that sort of want to cover was around, um, you know, I appreciate, Councilman Rorsnot's sort of, presentation, and, that overarching theme of people councils getting things done that they prioritize, that they're passionate about, that they're interested in, um, and that there is a unique role that elected officials play in this ecosystem of governance. And I think there's an opportunity for us as a council to do more. Um, there's a town staff does a great job of working to make sure the trains run on time per se, that we don't fall in afoul of any sort of law or anything like that. But I think there's a lot of room for us to sort of identify and advocate for particular things and positions, and sort of work not just within meetings, but also in our own capacity, with our, elected counterparts, across the state at various levels, advocating for things that, mean the most to our residents' constituencies. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about is the idea of having a council retreat. We're going into recess after this meeting, and probably won't come back until, it's scheduled for the end of August. Maybe there might be a special, session early August to sort of keep some projects moving forward. But for the most part, we're on recess. And so now is the time for us to come together as a council, to think about what does this administration look like these next 2 years that we have? What do we want to aspire to? What are the sort of top priorities that we want to have? How do we work as a council? What do we agree upon? And so I know the council onboarding session is something that hasn't happened yet. And so we'll be looking to try to get sort of availability from the council to try to have like a sort of half day, 4 or 5 hours, maybe with a meal in there in between, sort of retreat where we can do not just orientation, but also thinking about and envisioning for, what do we want to do for the next 2 years. And one of those sort of initial ideas is the notion around re-envisioning what our council committees are, and sort of, I think, replacing them with council liaisons. And so the idea being, how do we find, each council member sort of signing up for, 2 or 3 things that they are sort of, passionate about, and sort of willing to support and help be the official sort of council liaison for that particular group or committee, or organization, but also to sort of report back, and help us as a council not only be informed, but also to formally extend our influence to other communities, and sort of other constituencies and committees, and even industries, or within the town. As an example, I know Riversdale Mansion, the museum has been, doing a bunch of programming. I think, one of our council members from the third ward has, often been the one sort of helping, bringing things in our calendar for our awareness. I spoke to Director, Maya Davis, earlier this week, and they are looking to have a more formal quarterly sort of group, a kind of committee to sort of help them with their own programming. And they reached out to see if someone from the council can sort of sit on that, right? And so that's sort of an easy model to replicate on their sort of key institutions, that we want to sort of, be more actively involved, to kind of stay closer and connected to. There's examples all over the place, from the sustainability and green team that we talked about earlier. I think Ms. Katz, mentioned the idea of some of the advantages of what would happen if, the council was sort of more closely aligned with what they were doing and can kind of help bridge gaps. So I think it's something I'm excited about, and I think having a conversation about what does it mean to be a council member for some of the new folks that we have. We have, one new member now, and find some wood, knock on it. We'll hopefully find a great person to, be appointed in Ward 5. And so we're going to have, more than a third of the council in either new positions or newly elected. And so I think it's a great opportunity for us to not making assumptions on, we all sort of understand what this job entails and what success and good looks like. So more to come on sort of dates around that. But we will, the idea being getting someone from sort of MML to come in and serve as like a, third party moderator so that we can all actively participate and have a conversation that way. And then just lastly, it's extremely hot. And so just encourage everyone to try to stay cool. I know reading the Town Crier yesterday, a lot of great tips in terms of like for heating for your homes, definitely take advantage of some of that. And then as well, if you're able to sort of check on your neighbors and any of the elderly population or vulnerable populations to make sure that they're doing okay in this sort of this, ongoing heat wave and just the new reality of extremely warm, Junes and Julys and Augusts. So, and with that, I will end the mayor's report. And next up, we have the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. A few items this evening. We heard from our Deputy Director, Mr. Jones, in Finance this evening. He's our in-house CPA, that the fiscal year 2025 has ended and we're beginning the fiscal 26. As soon as we have more definitive numbers, we'll share those with the council for how we ended the fiscal year. The Board of Elections will meet on July 9th at 7 p.m. This will be a virtual meeting, and it's a review of the most recent election is what's on their agenda. We're working to reschedule the Walk Bike Drive meeting. We had a meeting scheduled initially in June with some changes to the council meeting schedule. We postponed that meeting, so we're working to finalize a date to bring that group back together. The Ethics Commission is meeting on July 21st at 7:30, and that is a virtual meeting as well. We're working on outreach for the Safe Streets for All. You may see staff at various pop-up locations over the course of the next 2 weeks. We're also working on community meetings. We'll make sure that we give at least 2 weeks notice to the community and the council when those meetings occur. So you may see staff at bus stops doing little interviews at bus stops, setting up a tent in a parking lot and surveying folks that are coming by. From what we have seen and read and researched, it's important to meet people where they are to get as diverse pool of information as possible. So we're doing that as well as more formalized meetings, and that we'll be publishing those scheduled meetings. We're also working to schedule a meeting with the new fire chief for Prince George's County. So Prince George's County, the new county executive has appointed a new fire chief. And so we're working to coordinate that meeting, and I'm coordinating that with Mayor Yang. Request, yes, it's the way it's written here. So I have a request. and the mayor alluded to it in his report. So there are two topics that staff would like to meet with the council and in a public meeting in August. Right now, we've penciled in August 4th. It's the first Monday in August. And it's for two purposes. And it would be just a work session, presentations. We would not be looking for any action. But then hopefully the information that you receive will then help over the 3 or 4 weeks after this, when we get back together at the end of August, and then being able to give us direction. So we'll be prepared by August 4th for our engineering team to make recommendations as it relates to Natoli realignment, as well as the trolley trail project, the two high-profile projects in town center. And so by August 4th, we'll have recommendations for the council. Be the first time you hear them, and give you, again, those 3 or 4 weeks to consider things and develop questions in that for us. And then the other is we would like the state to come in, MDOT, to come in and present on the plaza under the Riverdale Park, Kenilworth Avenue Purple Line Station. I've been in direct contact with their Deputy Director of Government Affairs for MTA, and they are available on August 4th, if that pleases the council, to come in, present their plans, take whatever questions that you may have on that project. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Hopefully folks are able to make the 4th of August for a session. I understand it's during recess, and so my thought process would be intentionally try to have this be a really short meeting, right? We have our presentations and then sort of go from there. Councilmember Lingua.
Oh, no, continue. I can wait till you're done.
That was it. I mean, that was just, I know it's unplanned, and, I know folks have vacation schedules, and so definitely take a look and sort of see what works for folks. But, the goal would be trying to, keep this, under an hour if possible. Okay, Councilmember.
Okay, thank you. That sounds great. I like that idea. What I had a question for the town manager, being this is the last time till, this possible meeting on the 4th of August. Are there any updates on the progress to the municipal center?
The fire alarm permit's been issued. They're in there working on the installation of the new fire alarm system, as well as punch out items. Director Lewis is not with us this evening, but I did speak with her about this earlier today, as well as the work is being done on the, I'll call it the new closed circuit TV type system. It's a new camera system. And so the work is actively progressing there. Director Lewis gave you a nod that she believes it'll all be done in time for you to meet either in person or hybrid, whatever you all select, by the end of August. And
Okay.
and I can just tell you that there's work actively underway. We're not waiting for permits. The permits have been issued and the work's happening.
Okay.
So knock wood, sir, that we don't have any unanticipated issues arise, but it seems to be coming together.
Okay, I'm knocking wood, so.
I did as well, sir.
Fantastic. Any other questions for the town manager? Okay. Last item on the agenda is council reports. We will start with Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't take too much time tonight. I hope everybody has had and continues to have a good summer. Definitely enjoy the recreation opportunities, and as was mentioned earlier, keep hydrated. And would note that we of course have a lot of people, or not a lot of people. We have residents that are experiencing long-term challenges, and just as we know, anyone who resides in our town, whether they sleep indoors or outdoors, is a resident of our town, and we owe them our service. And I think staff. I know I contacted staff for one gentleman who is a long-term area resident. On a particularly hot day that seemed in distress. He had moved on by the time that staff were able to get over there. But thank you for their responsiveness on that, and continue to look out for them. And just know that if anyone is experiencing something like that, we can always find a place in a town facility for somebody to come sit indoors in the air conditioning, have some water, that sort of thing. And again, appreciate staff for looking out for everyone there. On the subject of the town center and Natoli Place redesign, and staff may already be planning this, but in that presentation that we have, would just request that we integrate the feedback that we've received at the multiple public meetings, where we took in comments from residents around that. I ask that as I continue to here and there hear from constituents and residents across the wards who have concerns that there has not been enough of a public facing, resident engaging process around that. I'm not sure how they come to that conclusion, given the number of times we've talked about it in this forum and many other forums and many public meetings over a number of years. But just if we could show our work on that in the presentation, I would appreciate that, and it would be a good thing to point to residents who have those concerns that we have absolutely been listening and providing plenty of opportunities above and beyond to take feedback on that. And lastly, want to Chief Turner, I see, has left for this evening. Just want to, if folks could pass along my thanks for him indulging my questions this evening around those agenda items. I really do sincerely appreciate it. And lastly, just want to note thanks that it's wonderful to see Deputy Town Manager Jessica Barnes here this evening. I think, if I recall correctly, this is the first meeting where we have been able to call her by that title. And so, as always, thank you, Ms. Barnes, and thanks to all your staff, Mr. Listician, for all the service they continue to deliver to the town. That's all I have for this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilmember Lingle, Ward 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The hour being late and brevity being the soul of wit. The majority of what I was going to be talking about tonight came up during unfinished business. Those issues relating to Riverside Neighborhood Park. Other than that, my understanding is staff is working with other residents in town regarding other issues that have been it's been a process addressing. And I just wanted to recognize and appreciate the efforts that they are making to try and bring those to a conclusion. That is pretty much the gist of it. I'm sure folks are aware about what happened over at Town Center Market the other evening. They had a break-in. They're reviewing tapes. I think for us as a community to find a way through offices on Queensbury and otherwise to find a way to help them be able to find whatever remedies they think would be beneficial so as to make this a one-off instance. That they had this overnight break. With that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Councilmember Rorsnott, Ward 4.
Thank you. Just two quick things. First, in the context of the ongoing heat wave, I wanted to thank Deputy Town Manager Barnes for following up on a few questions about the splash pad and Riverdale Park Station. So she was able to find out that Cushman and Wakefield are waiting for a part to repair the splash pad, and there is no date for the repair at this time, but hopefully we will receive an update when there is one. So thank you for that. Second, I just wanted to make a quick clarification on my earlier comments. I mentioned budget increases for ICE, and I believe that precise words are important, and so I want to be precise. When I was putting the increases to ICE's budget in context of militaries worldwide, I may have referred to ICE as a military in my earlier comments, but to be precise, I should have said that its new increased budget gives it more money than most militaries in the world. Thank you for allowing me to make that correction. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember. And Councilmember Calhoun, Ward 6.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry for the day of that work and meet, and my mother's first cousin passed away, but I meet with the town manager, deputy town manager. I explained to her, and she gave me an excuse to go to the funeral. Then, apart from that, you know, on May 24, at the Riverdale McDonald here, that's my ward. Every day, sometime every morning I go there and sit down and see if there is any problem is coming over there, because before they used to know that. But the police, they take action. That has been stopped. So on May 24th, I was coming out. I'm on the right lane. This guy overtake another car to come and hit my car, my truck. He didn't stop. I hit and run. And I called. For some time, a female police lady came. No, the first one didn't run away. He was there, but he was speaking Spanish. I don't understand Spanish. By almost like 9:30 to 10 in the morning. So when I asked the police lady, I said, what this guy is talking? He hit my car. Then he's still talking. She said, mister, hey, don't talk to me. Wait for me. You look like you have a mental problem. I said, me? I have a mental problem? I said, okay, thank you. Because I don't like to argue women. So the ladies just say, okay, call your insurance and go. The guy drive off and go. But it's a minor thing. I went to a body workshop. I spent like $100 to fix it. I forget about it. Then the same place again, another Saturday, June 14. It's the same area I'm coming. I'm on my right lane. This guy overtake another van on the left-hand side. You know, it's a 2-lane towards the traffic light. He jumped over the pavement and come and bang my car. Then he make a right turn to go to Greenbelt by Ken Walter Avenue. He didn't stop. Then I called, a police officer came. Then I told him, I said, it's a hit and run. The guy didn't stop. I didn't even have chance to take his tag number. So that's the 2 incidents I have under these 2 months. So I went again, I fixed my car. So I hope it can be 3 times now. So, but in view of that, I don't know, this police lady, I don't want to give her a badge number, but I just forgive her, because she said if I have a mental problem, If somebody call you, you speak in another language, which the person didn't understand, the person asks you, you said, well, wait for me. Do you have a mental problem? But both of them speak in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I said, you're telling me I have a mental problem? I said, well, thank you. Okay? I just stopped like that. He told the guy to go call your insurance, tell the guy in Spanish to go. The guy drove off and go. So Chief, you're on the line. So please, I was once a police officer. You know, when somebody call you, you as a police officer, you have to control your temper. Because if you don't control your temper, you cannot control situation. That's why when you join the police, in the police academy, they can treat you all kind of way for you to use it. Because when you go to the public, you know how to behave. Right? Sometimes they insult your mom at the police training school. They want to know if you can be able to control situation. Sometimes they give you a necessary punishment. Yeah. So you see, that's why sometimes let us know what we are doing. Let's have self-respect, respect for each other. Police, they give you a lot of power. But if you say you're going to work with all this power, you can never have a friend. Yes. So I want the chief, sometime elect some of your officers. I know some are good, some are nice. In fact, this last guy that I called on June 14, he's a nice guy, man. Look at his badge number here, number 131. He talked to me nice. He said, the guy ran away. I said, yes. He said, it's a hit and run. I said, I know. He said, well, try. Whenever able to discover this guy, he said, let me know. I said, okay. But how can I discover this guy? I never have his tag number. He just hit and run. He damaged my front bumper. I went and spent $550 to fix it. So because my deductible is
Council member, just in the interest of time, you raised a couple things that I just want to be clear. I think if you have a formal complaint against an officer, I would suggest this is not the sort of place and time to do that.
No. I didn't complain against her.
Well,
That's why I told her. I said, go. I said, if you say I don't have a
council member, I'm letting you know, like you've been quoting badge numbers. You sort of mentioned it. Like I'm just saying, if you have a complaint against an officer, I would say that or comments about particular officers.
No.
I don't think this is the forum to do so. If you do, I think you can reach out to the Deputy Turner or even the town editor if you want to.
What I'm saying, I didn't complain her. That's why I don't want to give her badge number. I forgive her.
Sir, council.
You see, I said give her. That's
Council member. I'm giving you some grace right now. What I'm saying is, I just don't feel comfortable sort of allowing the conversation to continue going on. You were hit twice, and I think the conversation that some of the roads in Riverdale Park are not dangerous in a particular intersection, noted. We get that. We understand that. Continuing going down a path in which you're talking about a particular officer, whether you formally or informally, file a complaint or not, I'm saying is inappropriate. If you do feel that way, please reach out to the town manager or Chief Turner in private, not in a public forum with other folks. That's the direction I'm giving it. So if there are other things,
Thank you.
If there are other things that you want to cover that represent Ward 6 that you think that the town staff and the rest of the council should know, let us know.
Okay. The only thing, Ward 6, I'm waiting for them to, but I think it's in the schedule now. I'm happy I saw it. To put that speed bump is there in the schedule for November. I'm happy to have that one. And the only thing, the light on sprinkling, I don't know. I didn't see that one in the schedule. But anyway, we are looking for appropriate time to do that. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, council member. That concludes our ward reports from all the council members who are present. And that is the last item on the agenda is adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Colon. We'll do a roll call vote. There's no discussion on motions of adjournment. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnot,
Aye.
Councilmember Colon.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned at 9:41 p.m. Thank you all for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night to everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, all.